So let me see here. So our introduction to chapter 1 and all the fun things we're going to learn are here. Woohoo! So first and foremost, we need government and non-for-profit accounting, how they differ from business. The main thing is, if usually non-for-profit accounting or government accounting is for the benefit of society, and then the management that's entrusted, they have a special duty to be accountable for those resources and how they are providing services. And then they are also financed with resources that they do not expect the benefits. So that is the key here, that right here, that it's not proportional. So you want to make sure you understand that, because basically you're going to get money through revenue dollars, right? Usually through tax, and then it's not, then the benefits don't have to kind of coincide. So let's see here. Oh, let's do this. And then let's clear all my drawings here. So government purpose, general purpose, and special purpose. This you definitely need to know. So general purpose governments provide a large array of services like the federal government, states, cities, towns, boroughs, parishes, you name it. But then special purpose governors, right? They have only a single or just a few services. And that's where we're talking schools, universities, police, fire, all that great stuff. Oops, let's go back. So a non-for-profit organizations, they are legally separate organizations, and they are usually exempt from federal, state, and local taxes. So that's why you would do that, and you would want to set one up. But again, it's a little different. So for governmental and non-for-profit, unlike for-profit organizations, the resource providers do not expect to receive repayment or proportional benefits. Keep that in mind. And also the organization lacks, what is going on? Oh, profit motive. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing that as well. Make note of that, because you'll see that on your test. And there is an absence of transferable ownership rights. And so then the power ultimately rests in the hands of the people. So the citizens have the power, right? And then people delegate that power to public officials through the election process, which we will be doing here again in November, right? And they are empowered by and accountable to a higher level of government, and the organization has the power to tax. That's how they generate revenues. So make sure you know that. Then we have FASB, GASB, and the FASAB. And so here's what you want to make sure that you understand, because there'll be some questions and you'll see that in your study guide, right? So FASB obviously does business organizations and non-governmental non-for-profits, whereas GASB is the state and local government, and they do governmental non-for-profit. So make sure you understand the distinction. And then the FASAB is the federal government and its agencies and its departments. So you want to make sure we know those. So accountability is the cornerstone of all financial reporting in government. And that's from GASB concept statement number 1. Make sure you know that, because you're going to see accountability in some of your test questions, right? So accountability requires that governments justify the raising and the use of public resources such as taxes. So they have to say what the purpose is for. And because obviously citizens don't want to be taxed, and Lord knows I hate taxes because I pay enough of them, and wait till you do too. So then we have an interperiod equity, right, which is the government's obligation to disclose whether current year revenues were sufficient to pay current year benefits, or will the future taxpayers be required to pay that for them instead. So like basically to balance the books. All right, so we have governmental financial reporting and what they are used for. So you want to compare actual financial results with the legally adopted budget, and you want to assess the financial condition and results of operations, so kind of like how the government is functioning. And you want to assist in determining compliance with any types of laws, rules, and regulations, and you want to assist in evaluating the efficiency and effectiveness of the governmental entity. And then we have all this fun stuff, right? So budget integrity, that's going to come up again. So make sure you understand that the federal government financial reporting, it should assist in evaluating the stewardship, the adequacy of systems and controls, the operating performance, and the budgetary integrity. You'll see that in your study guide. And the non-for-profit financial reporting should provide information that is useful in making resource allocation decisions. That is what we are kind of going for here. Oops. I keep doing this. Sorry about that. I don't know why I keep doing that. All right. And then assessing services and the ability to provide those services, and then management, stewardship, and performance, and then assessing economic resources obligations, which we would net those, and we would have net resources and the changes in the net resources. All right. So here's all the minimum requirements for general purpose external government financial reporting, MD&A, right? So management, discussion, and analysis. Then we have governmental wide and fund financial statements and the notes, and required supplementary information other than the MD&A. So, and then we have two categories of financial statements, the government-wide and the fund, right? So the easiest way to remember that is government-wide financial statements. They're pretty much an overview of the government's net position and the changes in the net position. So think of it like a statement of cash flow, changes in cash, so in that way. And fund financial statements, that's really the detailed information about the government. So the government-wide financial statements is operational accountability. Remember that. You'll see that again, hopefully on Wednesday. So so basically that's to assist in assessing, try to say that fast 5 times, operational accountability, whether a government has used its resources, here's that, efficient and effective in meeting the service obligations. And it focuses on the flow of economic resources, and it uses an accrual basis of accounting. Remember that. And then for fund, you think of a fund as like a separate set of accounts that we use to keep track of resources, and we have to procure them, right? So we have a fund, we have to do procurement, and we'll talk about that next week, but just kind of hang in there for that one. But note that fund financial statements, now this is fiscal accountability. So whether the government raised and spent the financial resources in accordance to the budget and legal and regulatory constraints. And here we're thinking more short-term of current financial resources, and here's the important part. Modified accrual basis. The revenues are recognized when measurable and available for spending, and the expenditures are recognized when an obligation is incurred that will be paid from currently available financial resources. So it's a little bit different than accrual basis, and then you need to make sure that you understand that the modified accrual basis is based on the fund financial statements. Okay, then we have proprietary and fiduciary funds. So proprietary funds are business, like activities of the government, and fiduciary is your trust and agencies, right? Activities. And they both have to follow accounting principles, very similar to a for-profit business. Then we have a CAFR, a comprehensive annual financial report, and that provides more detail than just the minimum requirements for the general purpose financial reporting. It is not required to prepare a CAFR, but most all governments do, and it is prepared in accordance with GASB, right? So this is what you need to remember, the statistical section. So we have an introductory section, a financial section, and a statistical section. There is a question on your test about this because I just made it. So make sure you know that. And then what we have in the introductory section is the letter of transmittal. Make sure you understand that. And then we have the financial section. And this is where most of our information is. This is what we disclose fully, and we present fairly the financial position and the results of the financial operations. And in here, you have the MD&A, and then you have the financial statements and related notes. Then you have the supplementary information, and then any other supplementary information that you will give your citizens. So just make sure that you note that this is the financial section. And the statistical section, it's my favorite. Okay, this is where you have tables and charts that show like the demographics, the economic data, trends, capacity, operating information of the government, and a lot more detailed than most people really care about. But this is where all the data is. So make sure you know that, because you'll see in your study guide, there's several questions around the statistical section. And we'll go over the questions on Wednesday. So overview of the federal government financial reporting. So we have the financial reporting, we have the US government, right? Treasury, and then we have a bunch of the major agencies. So despite the enormous dollar amounts involved, the US Comptroller General has never been able to issue an audit opinion on the federal government's consolidated financial statements. That's interesting, right? So serious financial management and data deficiencies are cited for the Comptroller's general continuing disclaimer of an opinion. So can't get one. So here is the consolidated report, and see a plain language citizen's guide. So make sure that you're aware that these financial statements are presented for the citizens. And then don't forget your MD&A, and we'll talk about performance information, and then several financial statements, and then several supplemental information. So we have here a excuse me, major federal agencies and department must prepare a performance and accountability report, which is an annual performance report, which has annual financial statements, and it has a bunch of management reports on internal controls and other accountability issues. Accountability is where you need to remember. So the performance and accountability report has an MD&A, right? It gives you an overview of the performance accountability report. It gives you the description of the department and the mission, and then it goes into section information, which you pretty much are looking at the agency's performance and the progress in achieving those performance goals. Then you get the balance sheets, right? The basic financial statements, balance sheet, statement of net cost, statement of changes in net position. So make sure you underline that, statement of changes in net position. And then you have your budgetary resources statement of custodial activity, and then the statement of social insurance. So statement of changes in net position is important. And then we have other information like the tax gap, the burden, and whatever's facing management, any revenue that's foregone. And then we have the non-for-profit organizations financial reporting, right? Which is basically, again, to provide, any type of useful financial information to make decisions so that they can actually correctly allocate resources to either donors, members, or creditors. And then those resources you need to assess the services that it's provided by the non-for-profit, and then see how they're going to continue those, as well as management's performance and stewardship of the resources. So those non-for-profit organizations that are non-governmental in nature are required to follow FASB accounting and financial reporting standards. And these standards require a statement of financial position, a statement of activities, which is the income statement, and a statement of cash flows. So again, non-for-profit, make sure you make note of this because this is on your exam as well. So the non-for-profit organizations have to follow FASB, okay? And then they have to do all of our regular financial statements, but they also have to present a relationship between functioning expenses and natural expenses. And you either have to do that in the statement of activities, or you do it a schedule to the notes, or as a separate financial statement. So that's how we kind of allocate all of this information. And then we want to demonstrate accountability, keyword, you're going to see that word a lot, for donor imposed restrictions, right? So if you donate money, you can state, I want this money to be used for this class of group. And then those are reported as net assets. And the changes in these net assets are either without donor restrictions and with donor restrictions. So as a donor of any amount of money, you can say how you want this money spent, and then the non-for-profit has to abide by that. And then there's a whole reporting of those services separately, and you have to support the services. You have to kind of put everything, including all overhead as well. And how you are fundraising, and how you're putting all of these expenses, and how you're adhering to the donor requirements. So that's the key there. And then we have other reports, which is like service efforts and accomplishments, popular reports, which are condensed and pretty much not audited. And pretty much this is going to be what we're only going to go about up until chapter 10. So we're not going to get on non-for-profits and federal government accounting. We're going to cover what we need to for the CPA exam, mostly. And then I thought this was interesting. Even when developed to the ultimate stage of perfection, governmental accounting cannot become a guarantee of good government. At best, it can never be more than a valuable tool for promotion of sound financial management. Interesting. 1951. I'm not that old. So